Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 38. Sorry for missing last Sunday's upload. I did manage to record the footage on time, but I really wasn't happy with it. I spent the entire video trying to puzzle the rest of the helicopter construction hub together, and it was a whole hour of placing things, then deleting them to place them at a slightly different position or angle, just to make the different connections work together. It was torturous. So, after sleeping on it, I decided to just bin that particular recording, and do it again, using the finished setup as a guide for my second attempt, hoping it would go faster this time around, giving me some time to do other things. While I still end up struggling a little bit in certain places, the process will go a lot smoother this time around, and we will have time to deal with other problems in the Republic. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. So, here's the thing we need to finish today. And we will get around to it in a second, but we have some other business to take care of. There are a couple issues that need our attention. If you remember, thanks to the lower housing quality in this new settlement, the happiness keeps dipping below 50%, giving us a flood of notifications about it. To help a little bit, I decided to introduce two new buildings. One is the Remembrance Hall mod, a returning building from the last series. This will take care of the spiritual needs of the people in the local area. The other building is just the vanilla art gallery. We already have a carousel-type attraction in the form of the Autodrome, and we also have a museum, which is the centerpiece of the town. This is a third kind of attraction, which will hopefully give people some options. I wanted it to be as central as possible, but there isn't much room left. I could barely squeeze it in next to the tracks. Normally I would not build this close to the railroad, but in this case, I simply had to do it. I just hope they will install some soundproofing. The next thing we needed to deal with was the original maintenance garage in Dolny. It stopped receiving steel deliveries, all thanks to the unfortunate bug that still leaves some materials in the back of trucks. The only one doing the steel drop-offs had some aluminium stuck in it, which ground things to a halt. To help prevent this from happening again, I also added it to the bigger distribution office doing a similar job. More trucks might mean more room to avoid such errors. And at this point, it was time to get started on the rest of the CO hub. First, we needed to make a bit more room. I was hoping the current land would be enough, but no such luck. We also needed to sever the connection between cable car lines near the construction site. We will need to extend the terrain mostly in this direction. You might have also noticed that I changed out my avatar on the channel. It's nothing special, just something I asked DALL-E to do for me on a whim. You know, one of those AI services that can generate images. I tried to use the second iteration of the AI to give me some images I could use, but that version was still not advanced enough to give me anything useful. Then I learned that DALL-E 3 was accessible through the Bing AI search engine, and it gave me some really good stuff to choose from, and this little guy was what I landed on. The quality between the two versions was like night and day. Now, here's the thing about this service. I really wish I didn't have to use it. I am aware that these deep learning AI services use already existing artwork from the internet to learn from, and this often leads to the work of genuine artists being, well, not quite stolen, but let's just say, heavily relied upon. I really wanted to move away from the Dwarf Fortress avatar for a while now, and I thought I can justify using these AI image generators just for this. I did also consider using them to give me thumbnail images I could use for the videos, but I deemed that a step too far. The newer version of DALL-E gave me some really amazing looking things I could have used, but I felt that this is as far as I will take it. At least until these things are properly regulated in some way. Well, that's enough terraforming for now. We will do a bit more later, but we can work with this. Next, we need to build a conveyor line coming out of the other end of the storage. That's where the connection point is high enough to go over the roads. Which means a bit more groundwork. The towers have a big enough footprint that we needed some extra room. Thankfully, using the yellow ghost images to do terraforming is much faster than using the dedicated tools. After this, we will sneak the next couple towers through between the storage and the train station. This is where the asphalt plant will go. We need quite a bit of room to make it work, mostly thanks to the enormous footprint of the helipad. Well, that conveyor tower has 2 more connections we can use. One will go toward the concrete factory, so we can use the third one for the gravel loading station for trucks. Just in case we decide to use trucks in the area. Unlikely, but it won't hurt to be prepared. To be able to place the oil train station, we need to do a bit more terrain work. This place needed way more room in the end than I anticipated originally. Well, this won't work. We need to place the helipad too. I guess we can just go around the oil station the other way instead. And that's the asphalt dealt with. Next up, the concrete plant. That one will have to go into this area, but first, a bit of cleanup to make some room. There. Now we have a bit more room to work with. First, we need to make sure we can actually bring in the conveyor line from the asphalt plant. We will have the extra support buildings on the left of the concrete plant, so we can place the helipad on the right. This leaves only one place to feed it the cement it needs to make the concrete. No need to use anything big, the smallest silo will be plenty enough. Before we get back to the planning work, let's take care of the two constructions we started at the beginning. Once we deal with the last small driveway, we can leave the rest up to the offices to deal with. Next, we need to sneak a conveyor line through that gap between the silo and the factory. The thing is, the cement belt is already pretty high up from the ground. Well, if we cannot go over, how about we go under instead? It took me a couple tries to remember how I did it the first time around. I used a top-down screenshot of the finished setup, so I didn't really see which was going over the other, but I will remember in a second. We just need a tower with the outputs on the bottom. Well, now that we have the aggregate line down, we can just wiggle the silo around until we have a connection. And that's it. We have both gravel and cement going into the concrete plant. Now we just need a place to deliver the cement. We of course need to be extra careful to use the correct direction for the belts. We need the cement to go into the silo, not come out of it. And we have room for the road to duck under the belt. That's quite fortunate. And I believe that is it for the main buildings and their connections. Let's not forget about the power. A single substation will do the trick. That's it for the buildings on top. Now comes the part where we need to take all those railroad and road connections, and bring them all down to the level of the main networks. I can already tell you, this one will be a bit more aggressive with the climb the trains will have to make. Let's just pretend that the tracks we build now also have those chain elevators. You know, the ones most often used on roller coasters. But, I've seen pictures of them being used on proper railways, so let's assume we have that going on here as well. Since we need this place to have access to the steel mill, we need to build a T-junction at the bottom. Next, we need a place where the tracks on top will meet with the ones trying to come up. This will give us a place to aim for. Well, here we go. We need to do a lot of terraforming on this mountainside, and since there are a lot of exposed bedrock, the only feasible way of doing this is to use the yellow ghost image technique. The thing is, the change in elevation is too great to do it all in one go, so we need to find a place where we get a yellow image, use that to sculpt the terrain a bit, and then move around until we reach the point where we can do it. There we go. Now we have an incline that will allow leveling with a single continuous line. But we are far from finished. There is a bit of clipping on one of the tracks. Let's try to deal with that before we finalize things. Normally, I would not allow myself to accept such a ridiculous incline on the rail network, but desperate times and all that. Now we just need to hook the rail connections together on top, and the rail portion of the project is done. I hate it when I forget to use the snapping toggle when I encounter this. I only ever remember that we can turn that off when I'm done recording. All in all, it didn't turn out too badly. Could be better, but it's not the worst. And it seems one of the apartment blocks cannot really maintain a happiness level above 50%, and it will keep on pestering us with notifications. All the others are capable of staying above the threshold, but not that one. I guess they are really miffed about the unemployment. Well, it's only a matter of time before that's fixed, I suppose. We might as well send over the other track layer, so they can work faster. At this point, those track demolition jobs should be finished, so I went around and changed the old signals, which were still in the old construction configuration. There is quite a bit of track already finished, so we can move the signals up a bit, and allow the track layers to wait close to the construction area. I did consider adding a construction crossing here, but I did want to test how they would deal with the situation, given that they can turn around to find their way now. I've been meaning to test this for a while now, and this was a great opportunity to do it. Well, we have more than enough people in this town now that unemployment is starting to become an issue. To help alleviate this problem until the steel mill is operational, we can give the town a bus construction office, and use the train station for pickups. That will keep a couple more people busy for sure. Seeing those microbuses arrive at the same time made me realize that I forgot to give that route a spacing order. While I was glad to see vehicles being maintained quite well since we solved that steel delivery issue earlier, I felt that it was still not quite as good as it could be. And these harvesters are still overworked. The maintenance system really needs some extra attention. Allowing vehicles to leave their garage when they are in desperate need of repairs is simply not a workable situation. To keep things in working shape needs way too much micromanagement at the moment. To help me a little bit, I decided to build a road depot next to the maintenance garage. Let's hope that will allow vehicles to be fully repaired. It also made me remember to check on the Dolny garbage processing, and it seems there is a bit of a pileup of stuff in the incinerator output. I really cannot be bothered to troubleshoot the whole thing right now, so I just told the ash export truck to try to empty out the stuff from it when it can, and I will try to see what the problem is at a later date. The vast majority of the output is still ash, with trace amounts of other stuff. I will try to discover the source of the contamination between episodes, but we have better things to do right now. I almost forgot to build the road connection to the helicopter hub. It's all good to have the rails come up, but we also need roads. Well, it's too close to the tracks to use the right-click leveling, so I ended up building it in segments, and that solved the issue. Same as with the last construction hub, we will use concrete panel roads instead of asphalt. And I also remembered to add in some extra service connections to speed up the building process. There isn't enough room to do it everywhere, but we did manage to bridge some of the gaps, which is a big help all things considered. Yeah, I think it's obvious that the track layers still need construction crossings to function properly. I will add one in a second, but I did want to see if that problematic apartment block will give me any more information on why it cannot maintain happiness above 50%, while all the others can do it without issues. But I was none the wiser. All of them were comfortably above 50%, except for that one. Not really sure what to make of it. I also wanted to check on the vehicle maintenance in Dolny. I did change that option about waiting around if the repair takes too long, hoping it was simply worded wrong, but no, the repair trucks still work the same as before. At this point I just assume that option is simply bugged. So, I just continued working on that depot. Next, we needed to get rid of the footpaths to make room for it. This time, I put it as close to the maintenance garage as possible, so the two buildings were linked. Any vehicle parked in the depot should be repaired automatically, without the two trucks having to go there to make the fixes. And while I can tell you that the stuff parked in there will be repaired to 0% damage, we will still need to wait a year between repair sessions. As I've said, this vehicle maintenance mechanic needs some extra work from the developers. I think that if a machine reached the maintenance threshold required to call in a truck from the garage, they shouldn't be allowed to leave their home base until they are fixed. I suspect the harvesters are so badly maintained because they reach the limit on their damage. A fixer truck is called in, they get a bit of work done, but eventually they are called out on a job on the farm fields, leaving the fix half done, which starts the year-long countdown until the next repair session can be initiated. If they weren't allowed to leave until they are done should be enough to fix this issue. At least that is my working theory at the moment. I might be wrong on the reason for the bad maintenance the farm vehicles receive. But everything else are working fine. Well, anyways. The bus construction office in the new town was completed, so I bought half a dozen Icarus buses for it, told it to use the train station for pickups, and that should alleviate the unemployment running rampant in this community. Before we go, let's deal with that construction crossing already. I've been delaying it for long enough. And this is pretty much all we have time for. The helicopter construction hub should be good to go at this point, and it only needs a couple offices with landing pads to be complete. I would like them to have at least 2 extra helipads attached, so they have 3 cargo choppers to deal with the heavy lifting, and 1 passenger helis to bring in the workers. Which also means that we need a heliport nearby. Good thing we have a town just across the river. We can just build it on top of that hill we are yet to build on, so I don't think we will need to worry about workers too much. And I already tested the previous iteration, and that one worked perfectly well, and could reach everything in the steel production area, including both mines, and all the cable towers, so we should be okay on construction and maintenance. Well, assuming I didn't mess anything up while replicating the setup, but I intend to test it again before it gets built, just to be sure. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.